Before we get to the data and the maps, you need to know what is happening right now. As of early March 2026, the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most critical oil transit corridor, is in the middle of an active military crisis. Here is what happened. On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched coordinated strikes on Iran under Operation Epic Fury, targeting military facilities, nuclear sites, and senior leadership infrastructure. Iran's response was immediate and escalatory. Beginning on March 4, 2026, Iranian forces declared the strait closed, threatening and carrying out attacks on ships attempting to transit the waterway. Vessel tracking shows limited traffic, and commercial operators, major oil companies, and insurers have effectively withdrawn from the corridor. Insurance premiums at 6-year highs have made transit economically unviable for most operators, creating a de facto closure for the vast majority of global shipping. Oil prices surged above $113 a barrel. This is a live supply shock unfolding in real time that will determine energy prices, freight costs, trade finance conditions, and economic stability across Asia, Europe, and beyond for weeks and possibly months ahead. And to understand why this matters so profoundly, you need to understand all 8 of the world's critical maritime gateways. Because Hormuz is not alone, there are 7 others, and the world's oil supply runs through every single one of them. Let's map them all. Right now, as you watch this, hundreds of supertankers are creeping through 8 impossibly narrow corridors scattered across the world's oceans. Not pipelines, not ports, just water. Thin slivers of sea, some barely a few kilometers across. And yet, shut down any one of them, even for 72 hours, and oil prices spike, freight rates double, and supply chains seize up across 3 continents. These are the world's critical maritime gateways, 8 pressure points on which the entire global economy quietly balances. Today we're going to map every single one of them, the volumes, the vulnerabilities, and the very real crises already reshaping some of these routes as we speak. Let's start with the biggest. Gateway 1, Strait of Malacca. The Strait of Malacca, wedged between Malaysia, Indonesia, and Singapore, this is the world's single busiest oil transit corridor, and at its narrowest point, it's barely 2.8 kilometers wide. In the first half of 2025, roughly 23.2 million barrels of oil per day moved through this passage, representing nearly 3 in every 10 barrels traded by sea anywhere on the planet. Think about that. Nearly a third of all maritime oil trade squeezes through a strait you could cross in a rowboat on a calm day. China accounts for almost half of that eastward flow. Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, and Singapore depend on it for energy survival. Essentially, if you want to keep East Asia's lights on, this passage cannot close. The alternative, detour of several thousand kilometers around the Indonesian archipelago, prohibitively expensive and slow. And there's a security dimension too. The International Maritime Bureau has flagged a persistent, low-level piracy threat in these waters, particularly in the southern approaches. The world's most critical oil artery is also one of its most congested and least protected. Gateway 2, Strait of Hormuz. If Malacca is the world's busiest oil corridor, Hormuz is the most dangerous. Flanked by Iran on one side and Oman and the UAE on the other, this narrow passage at the mouth of the Persian Gulf handles 20.9 million barrels of oil per day. That's roughly 1 barrel in every 4 traded by sea globally. What makes it uniquely alarming is the concentration of origin. The oil flowing through Hormuz comes overwhelmingly from Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Kuwait, Iraq, and Iran itself. There is no equivalent alternative supply source anywhere nearby. And approximately 84% of that oil is destined for Asia. Saudi Arabia and the UAE operate pipelines capable of partially bypassing the strait, but only partially. The vast majority of Gulf crude has exactly one exit route. Iran has threatened closure on multiple occasions. Each time, markets react immediately, even without a single tanker being touched. The mere geopolitical shadow of this passage is enough to move crude prices. Gateway 3, Cape of Good Hope. Here's one that doesn't look like a pressure point on a map, because technically it isn't one, as Cape is not a strait but valid reroute. The Cape of Good Hope is open ocean. No country can block it, no government controls it. It's just a very long, very rough detour around the bottom of Africa. But in 2024 and into 2025, it became one of the most strategically significant oil routes on Earth. And the reason is what happened in the Red Sea. When Houthi militant attacks on commercial vessels escalated in late 2023, shipping companies began widely abandoning the Suez Canal route. They rerouted south, around Africa, adding up to 3,500 nautical miles per voyage. The result? Oil flows rounding the Cape surged by over 45%, reaching 9.1 million barrels per day in first half of 2025, roughly 11.4% of world maritime oil trade. Volumes this route had never carried before. Higher freight costs, longer delivery windows, and ballooning insurance premiums followed, all flowing directly into the price of goods in Europe and Asia. Gateway 4, Suez Canal and Sumed Pipeline. For over 150 years, Egypt's Suez Canal was the defining shortcut in global trade, slashing thousands of kilometers of voyages between the Gulf and Europe. But war-driven disruption has redrawn the map. Combined flows through the Suez Canal and the adjacent Sumed Pipeline, which runs overland across Egypt, connecting the Red Sea port of Ain Sukna to the Mediterranean, dropped to just 5.9 million barrels per day in first half of 2025, accounting for 6.1% of maritime oil trade. Before the Red Sea crisis, this figure was nearly double. The diversion of traffic around the Cape represents a permanent shift in freight economics that Egypt and the global shipping industry is still adjusting to. Gateway 5, Bab el-Mandeb. This is the southern gateway to the Suez Canal and the epicenter of the most dramatic maritime disruption in a generation. The Bab el-Mandeb Strait, which translates from Arabic as Gate of Grief, sits between Yemen on the Arabian Peninsula and Djibouti and Eritrea on the African coast. At its narrowest, it is around 30 kilometers across. In 2023, approximately 9.3 million barrels of oil transited this passage. By 2025, in the first half, that had collapsed to 4.2 million barrels, a fall of over 55%. Houthi attacks on commercial shipping, launched from Yemeni territory, effectively shut down one of the world's premier oil transit corridors, with drones, missiles, and the threat of naval mines. No army was needed, no formal blockade declared, just asymmetric pressure on a narrow strip of water, and the consequences rippled through energy markets, insurance premiums, and trade finance across the globe. Gateway 6, Danish Straits. Far less discussed but critically important for European energy security, the Danish Straits form the only maritime link between the Baltic Sea and the North Sea. Russian crude exports from Baltic terminals, Scandinavian petroleum products, and cargoes from the Baltic states all funnel through this passage. In first half of 2025, flows reached 5.9 million barrels per day, 6.1% of world maritime oil trade. Worth noting, these figures exclude volumes transiting the Kiel Canal, which handles additional freight on a parallel route through northern Germany. As European energy policy shifts away from Russian supply, the strategic weight of this passage in sanctions enforcement and rerouting decisions has grown considerably. Gateway 7, Turkish Straits, Dardanelles. Few passages in the world carry both strategic weight and historic gravity quite like the Turkish Straits, the Bosphorus and Dardanelles running directly through Istanbul, one of humanity's oldest cities. In first half of 2025, 3.7 million barrels of oil transited this passage, roughly 4.6% of maritime oil trade, predominantly Russian crude and refined products from Black Sea ports. What makes this passage geopolitically complex is Turkey's unique legal position. Under the 1936 Montreux Convention, Turkey has the authority to regulate and, under certain conditions, restrict commercial transit. It has leveraged that authority carefully since Russia's 2022 invasion. Gateway 8, Panama Canal. The Panama Canal, the 80-kilometer man-made passage connecting the Atlantic and Pacific, is the smallest of the 8 by oil volume, but it punches well above its weight for specific cargo flows. In first half of 2025, oil and petroleum products transited 2.3 million barrels per day, 2.9% of maritime oil trade, with significant volumes of US LPG and refined petroleum products moving toward Asian buyers. But the canal carries a risk that the others don't: climate vulnerability. Severe drought conditions in 2023 and 2024 dropped freshwater reservoir levels so sharply that Panama was forced to reduce the daily vessel slot allocation by nearly 40%, causing vessel queues stretching for days, sharply higher freight costs, and delays in LNG and petroleum shipments. In a warming world, one of global trade's most important man-made passages is increasingly at the mercy of rainfall. Step back and look at the full picture. Total world seaborne oil trade in the first half of 2025 approximately 79.8 million barrels per day. The 8 passages we've covered today collectively handle well over 90% of that volume at various points along global routes. What's striking isn't just the concentration, it's the fragility. The crisis demonstrated in real time how quickly a single passage, when disrupted by a non-state actor with drones, can add billions of dollars in cost to global supply chains. Insurance premiums spiked, freight rates doubled, commodity traders repositioned overnight. For trade finance professionals, commodity bankers, exporters, and supply chain leaders, mapping these passages is no longer a geography exercise. It is live risk management, because the next disruption won't announce itself. It never does. If this gave you a sharper picture of how global energy actually moves, hit subscribe. We break down trade finance, commodity flows, and geopolitical risk in exactly this kind of depth. And drop a comment below. Which of these 8 passages keeps you up at night? See you in the next one.